The Old Testament lesson today is Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. The New Testament reading is from the book of Matthew, chapter 2, verses 1 to 12. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the east and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, 'And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel.'" Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and learned from them when the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen in the east, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The word of God for the people of God. Praise be to God.
Dorothy, thank you so much for reading 2 long readings today. Do you remember what happened about 2 weeks ago? I'm not talking about Christmas. And I'm not talking about the snowstorm we had when we had to cancel the night of the pageant. No, I'm talking about what happened on the night of December 19th. Do you remember? Anybody remember? There was a big meteor shower appeared in the sky. The name was 3I/ATLAS. Bringing back any memories? It appeared about 168 million miles or 270 million kilometers from Earth. It was not visible with the eye, and that's probably why you missed it, but only with good telescopes. We have a good telescope at home, and I could have gotten out the telescope in the middle of night when it was freezing outside and tried to watch the spectacle like at 2 a.m. I decided it was too cold. It was too early in the morning, and I was too tired knowing that I had to get up the next morning to go to work. So the time and temperature were just not convenient for me. So I decided to stay inside, put on my jammies, and wait for the next day to read online what happened in the night, the sky before. In contrast to the Magi in our story, I was not committed enough, not curious enough, and not courageous enough to brave the elements. every single year in the first week of January, while we are still in the Christmas season, we remember the people who visited young Jesus and brought him gifts. In all the nativity scenes I have seen, there are 3 guys, just like here. Sorry to burst your bubble, but we really don't know if there were 3 guys, and also if there were guys. We don't know. We only know that they brought 3 gifts. Okay, hold your seats here, because we're getting more and more. I'm sorry to bursting your bubble scene today. We know that there's at least more than once. It could be a whole entourage. Even though we sang earlier today, we 3 kings of Orient are, and many times they have beautiful crowns on, we don't know that they were kings. We assume that they were not kings, but that a little bit later. Even though they are traditionally portrayed as kings, the Magi are depicted in artwork, Christmas cards, and even Christmas pageants, dressed in velvety robes, wearing crowns. Scripture doesn't say that they are kings. They are Magi, not magicians. Magi. They are astrologers, but different than looking up on your phone or on your paper what today or next week might look like. No, these are wise people, intellectuals, professionals, thinkers, scholars. They have read and studied for many years. They analyze the past, observe the present, and predict the future. They have learned facts and patterns. They are respected because of their knowledge and experience. They are esteemed and have a reputation for seeing behind and beyond the obvious. And in my opinion, it is always wise to listen to people who have spent many, many years reading and studying and who know what they're talking about. Scripture says they come from the East. Do you remember Christmas Eve? Just remoting your memory just a little bit, even though you might not have remembered what happened on December 19th. So Christmas Eve was on December 24, and we read the familiar story of Luke. Do you remember who first heard the story? It was the shepherds on the fields with an angel. And today we have the Magi from the East, wise, intelligent professional from a different country. And we know, because Dorothy read so, that King Herod reigned. It's important not only to give us a historical time frame, but also to state the opposite. King Herod, the tyrant, the despot, he's jealous. He's afraid of a small child that could take away his power and might. And these wise scholars came to the authority because they saw a star in the sky, the star that would lead them to the newborn king. King Herod, as we know, is mean and tries to trick. He also says he wants to pay homage to the newborn king, but we, who have read the story before and know what comes next, know that Herod is up to no good whatsoever. And also, that was a long walk, probably realizing that Jesus was not a little baby anymore. According to historical research and the terrible events recorded after today's gospel story, King Herod was a jealous sociopath leading a massacre against all children under age 2. In today's story, Jesus was not in a manger either, but in a house. Do you remember, Dorothy? You just read it in verse 11. In a house. Do you remember that? You read it out loud. How many nativity scenes have you seen where Jesus is a toddler living in a house? Probably walking like this, like a little penguin, and figuring out how to explore the world. Another interesting fact, Do you know that this is the only time in all the Christmas stories in Luke and in Matthew that the star appears? Every nativity set I know has the star above the manger, but the manger is from Luke's gospel, where the shepherds appear, where the shepherds hear the angel. Only here in Matthew, where the Magi from a different country come, the visitors bringing their gifts, do we find the star. The Magi are committed, courageous, and curious. 3 words with C, and I hope that these words can help us as well as we're starting the new year. Committed. We have no idea how long their journey was. Not just from King Herod in Jerusalem to Bethlehem, that's about 10 miles. You can probably do that in a day, in less than a day. But where they come from the east, some people say they traveled from Persia or even India. And the term magi was derived from an old Persian term meaning wise, astronomers, astrologers. So if they traveled from Babylon, just hypothetically thinking, that travel to Bethlehem is more than 800 miles long. To give you a context, that would be from here to Orlando, Florida, or Oklahoma City. How long does it take you, even with a camel, to walk that distance? I bet more than a day, more than a week, more than a month, and probably a year or two. And we assume that if you travel, you just imagine you have got your hiking boots on, from here to Florida, up and down, all the hills and with no map and with no GPS. You probably have to have food with you, and you probably have more water and more than just 3 people. We assume probably a whole entourage, and maybe other kids and wives and more animals, because you have no idea who might be hospitable to you. You might have even seen pictures of them in clothes that are not from the Middle East. In some pictures, even one of our guys has got a darker color, darker skin color, and according to certain traditions, each of the 3 is from a different continent, Africa, Asia, and Europe, and they all meet at Jesus. Christ unites people from all over the world, from all over the different continents. And since the beginning of time, the message of Jesus unites people. And therefore, Christian nationalism has never and is not and will never be biblical because of who comes and visits. The Magi are committed to finding Jesus, who are for such a different kind of reign than King Herod. Or as some Christmas gods say, wise guys are still seeking him. My hope for all of us is, let us be as committed as they are. Let us not give up easily trying to find the newborn king. Second C, courageous. Traveling all the way from the east, probably speaking a different language, then daring to tell King Herod about their mission. And we know that was a dare because King Herod's reputation went far beyond the border of his reign. Our gift-bearing visitors must have known that King Herod was not excited to hear about another king to be born, because we know that he was jealous and mean and bad. He, after he heard what happened, was so jealous that he had a pogrom so that all little children should be eliminated. And no matter where you are or who you are, these orders are just wrong and awful. Then and now. It takes courage to go, to speak up, to seek an alternate reign where power and strength are not achieved through brutal force. But Jesus reigned with vulnerability, mercy, forgiveness, and love. Third C, do you remember? We had committed, we had courageous. Number 3 is curious. They want to find out what the star is all about. They could have stayed home, but they didn't. They faced various inconveniences to meet Jesus the Christ. And once they see the star, they wonder, is this really the star the prophets foretold us so many centuries ago? What would happen if we follow? How long would the journey be? What if we just go and see for ourselves? And then figure out if it is really true. The Magi show an interplay of all 3 C's: committed to follow through with their plans, regardless of the consequences, curious enough to learn, and courageous to act on the information they're giving. Committed, courageous, and curious. This is definitely different from how I reacted a couple of weeks ago when I chose comfort, my jammies, and a nice cup of tea, and staying in bed and looking at the news the next day. Today is the 4th day of the new year. Who are you going to be? Like the Magi, committed, curious, and courageous? Or much more like me, staying in bed in my comfort? And I just know, because of who they are, commitment, curiosity, and courage, they experienced the living God in flesh. They would have never encountered Christ if they had stayed in their cozy, warm homes. I just hope that we can all a little bit like them. Let us choose the 3 C's: committed, courageous, and curious. And then we can have our own epiphany experience with God who became flesh and the living Christ. Choose wisely. And remember, every journey begins with the first step.